पांच जहाँ भी आपको
ठीक है,
मेमोरी
रिकॉर्डिंग हो
प्रॉब्लम
रही है।
तो आपको कंप्यूटर में करनी
एक्स्ट्रा नॉइज कहाँ से आ रही है? Few more people are expected to join. योगेश, रिकॉर्डिंग चल रही है ना? ओके। Why are people not on time? हरीश, रितु, हिमांशु, योगेश, मदन गोपाल जी। ठीक है, we'll just start reading the previous paragraph so that by the time we reach the fresh one, the rest of the people would have joined. Um, Shweta, would you like to read? Shweta is not responding. Dhaval bhai, would you like to read? Oh,
Anmol bhai, I am on phone, so it's difficult
acha,
right
acha.
now for me
Okay,
to
okay. Got it, got it.
read.
Okay, got it. So who can read? I mean, we will just read the previous paragraph so that by the time Yogesh ji has joined, two, three people are remaining. Okay, one more. Harish has joined. Who is remaining? Ritu Gandhi, she's a little late. Himanshu ji also joins a little late. Okay, we'll start. So basically, in the last paragraph that we read, Sri Aurobindo is making clear the Mahavakya of the Gita because of the centrality of it and the importance of it. I'll just read it. It's a short paragraph. What the great, the supreme word of the Gita is, it's Mahavakya. We have not to seek. He has been clarifying this for the last 4 or 5 paragraphs that the Mahavakya of the Gita is not Karmanyavadikaraste, as Bankim said it out to be. It's not that. Okay. And और तो कोई वो महावाक्य कट नहीं करते हैं as such, but different people find out their own Mahavakyas in the Gita. We do not have to seek for the Mahavakya of the Gita anywhere else because the Gita declares it explicitly. Okay? Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah shrunu me paramam vachah. Paramam vachah translates to supreme word, and that's it. You don't need to go anywhere else to find what is the Mahavakya of the Gita. This is verse 18.64. All right. Shrunu me paramam vachah. Shrunu means suno. Hindi mein shrunu becomes suno. Listen, me means mine. Paramam vachah means my supreme word. Right? That's it. So no more confusion is there. Um, for the Gita itself declares it in its last utterance, the crowning note of the great diapason. यहाँ पे he has given 5 verses from 1865 to 1866. That would make it actually 6. 1862 to 1866, but portions of it. But basically, as I said, if you take it in one verse, then that is said to be Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. If you take it in 2 verses, then again you will say कि महावाक्य जनरली जो महावाक्य कोट होता है ऑफ श्री अरविंदो ऑफ द गीता, इट इज 18.66. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha, because it liberates you from everything else. It just frees you completely, but binds you to what? Binds you to the central law of surrendering your everything, sarvasva, to the divine. And as I said last time, this is where Sri Aurobindo begins his yoga. So he says the first word of my yoga is surrender, like that, right? If you want to take it in two verses, then it is 18.65 and 18.66. 1865 is also very significant. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. You will attain to me without fail. This is my promise to you, right? And then he again assures him in the next verse, ma shuchaha, do not grieve, right? So there it is. With the Lord in thy heart, take refuge with all thy being. By his grace, thou shalt attain to the supreme peace and the eternal status. Ishvarah sarvabhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudhani mayaya tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. So have I expounded to thee, a knowledge more secret than that which is hidden. Further, here the most secret, the supreme word, and so on it goes, right? So now we'll begin with the next paragraph. Just checking, Ritu Gandhi has also come or not? Okay, she has come, it seems. She's there. Okay, so who'd like to read this paragraph? Who'd like to read? Who'd like to read? It's a mantric exercise to read it, so we should have a lot of volunteers. Okay, who has not read at all in these sessions so far?
The last para of the chapter.
Second last, Aroraji, please read the argument of the Gita.
Okay. The argument of the Gita resolves itself into three great steps by which action rises out of the human into the divine plane, leaving the bondage of the lower for the liberty of a higher law. First, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer, a sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self, though by him not yet realized in his own being. This is the initial step. Secondly, not only the desire of the fruit, but the claim to be the doer of works has to be renounced in the realization of the self as the equal, the inactive, the immutable principle, and of all works as simply the operation of a universal force of the nature soul, Prakriti, the unequal, active, mutable power. Lastly, the Supreme Self has to be seen as the Supreme Purusha, governing this Prakriti, of whom the soul in nature is a partial manifestation, by whom all works are directed in a perfect transcendence through nature. To him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. The whole being has to be surrendered to him, and the whole consciousness raised up to dwell in this divine consciousness, so that the human soul may share in his divine transcendence of nature and of his works and act in a perfect spiritual liberty.
Right. So Thank you. The talk that I had given on International Yoga Day on Gita, I had covered these two paragraphs, this one and the next one. If people can switch on their videos, it will be helpful for me. So the argument of the Gita resolves itself into the three great steps by which action. By the way, जो next paragraph है, okay, we'll wait. The argument of the Gita resolves itself into three great steps by which action rises out of the human into the divine plane, leaving the bondage of the lower for the liberty of a higher law. So once again, I mean, not that it's being stressed particularly in this place, but the whole, what should I say? The main and underlying point of the Gita, always the insistence on action and on the perfection of action. So the action rises out of the human plane into the divine plane, leaving the bondage of the lower for the liberty of a higher law. What are the three great steps? First, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality. This is covered in the second part of the second chapter. You could say from Karmanyavadhikaraste, renunciation of desire ke liye, for example, the verse is Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatam atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthita prajna stadochyate. Right? That is 2.55. So Prajahati yada kaman, renouncing all desire. जो ईशोपनिषद में भी आता है, तेना त्यक्तेना, त्यक्तेना what? Tyaktena of desire. Enjoyment of all by renunciation of all through the exclusion of desire. This is how Sri Aurobindo translates that phrase from the Isha Upanishad. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. By that renounced, thou shouldst enjoy. What is that thing which has to be renounced? That is desire. Okay. We had mentioned that verse towards the end of the third chapter of the Gita. Desire is clearly called as the enemy, vairi. Dhumena vriyate vakhni. The three types of example is given for that. But basically it is called a vairi and it has to be slain. Okay. So there is a very powerful line in Savitri, one or two lines. He tore desire up from its bleeding roots and offered the vacant space to the god. He tore desire up from its bleeding roots and offered the vacant space to the gods or God, something like that. So first by the renunciation of desire. And why? Again, desire is the helper, desire is the bar, depending on the level of evolution at which we are, right? That also has to be understood. Desire is also necessary as long as tamo guna is dominant in us. Let that also not be forgotten. Otherwise, by renouncing desire, that's why having a certain readiness is necessary for books like this. Dhaval bhai will come to your this thing, unless it is absolutely urgent.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So first, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. You have the sense that you are the doer. We had done at quite a length. 2.47 says कि तुम्हारा केवल कर्म का अधिकार है, but not to the fruits thereof, right? But in 3.27 it is corrected, which is further mentioned here. So first, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, samatvam yoga uchyate, 2.48, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. Acha, why we have to renounce desire? Why we have to renounce desire? Of course, I am anticipating a little bit from the book. Desire has to be renounced because desire comes from a sense of not being complete or fulfilled oneself. It comes from a sense of not being complete. Whereas the reality, jo Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, in our true self, we are all complete beings. And whatever actions should spring out of us, it should spring out of that fullness within us, not out of a hankering, right? That is the principle. That is the principle. Of course, one can understand this even mentally only to the extent that one has truly risen above desire. in one's personal evolution. Okay, so this is what it is. But this is the principle. Tell me. Yes, tell. Dhaval bhai?
So Anmol bhai, I am reminded of, since you mentioned Savitri, I am reminded of one line from Savitri. Our passions grope in the dark, right? That is one line. And then in that further ahead, there is this thing that all the claims in him had hushed their cry, right? That means the desires have stopped their claims,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
That is what is वो जो आप कह रहे हैं जिसको आप रेफर कर रहे हैं, all claims in him had hushed and he basically becomes silent. That
yeah,
is kind of what the Gita called Sarvarambha Parityagi. So you stop initiating all action. You wait on the will of the divine. Wait in the sense of, you basically wait on his will. You are ready to serve whatever his will is, and you wait on his will, and he springs that action through you. Basically, that is
correct.
similar idea.
Similar idea, right? And also that our passions grope in the
And
dark.
again,
right?
when
That
we
is-
mention desire, and we are saying renunciation of desire and this and that, what should be mentioned is also this thing आधा है या जितना भी है धर्मा विरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोस्मि भरतर्षभ. I am desire that is unopposed to dharma. This comes later on in the 7th chapter.
Acha.
If you do not have this clarity, then you're not going to do anything.
Correct. So that is why Shri Aurobindo and Savitri also says our passions grope in the dark, right? Because desire is a helper and desire is a bar is a poetic. I mean, that is a prose translation of that poetic line, right?
Kind of.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
And also the first two steps which are mentioned in these paragraphs, can we say that these are act of consecration? And then the last paragraph, as you mentioned, is the ultimate step of surrender.
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. This paragraph and the next paragraph is basically in this paragraph.
No, the last step.
Third step. In the last paragraph, he is calling karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga.
No, that is true. Not the paragraph. Sorry, I should have corrected myself. The last line or the last step of this paragraph, where he says surrender, right? And the first two steps.
Complete merger in the divine will. Complete surrender by the force of your devotion and surrender. Your will merges into the divine will. You no longer have any will of your own left. That is what it means.
So that means the first two steps are consecrating, making sacred. So that's the difference between consecration and surrender, right?
You could say that, yeah. When in that state of total surrender, there won't be even that process of making sacred via offering.
Exactly.
It's all done. It's all united and all.
Exactly.
But that cannot be done without the power of love. Without the force of love and devotion, that cannot be achieved. And for that, the central idea of the Gita, that of the Purushottama, it is essential to understand it and to know it basically. Jnatum drashtum cha tattvena praveshtum cha parantapa. This comes in the last verse of the 11th. You know me, jnatum drashtum, you see me, cha tattvena, in my true principles. You know me in my true principles, you see me in my true principles, and having known and seen me as such, you enter into me. Praveshtum cha parantapa. Very powerful verse. That is how the Vishwarupa Darshan ends.
Right.
And so then the 12th chapter of Bhakti Yoga begins.
Also, Anmol bhai, that is why you use the word perfection. So consecration.
I'm sorry, this is the second last verse, not the last verse.
Right.
Last verse of the
so 11th. This is perfecting our action. That is Correct. Perfecting our action means consecration. Yeah.
You can say that. I mean, basically we are juggling with words, but yeah, basically more or less.
Okay.
Consecration is a step towards perfection. When the consecration is complete, when the consecration is utter through the power of surrender, then your action will become perfect. That is how you can put it.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
No. What is there to thank? So first, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. Now, very important to remember that, unless that step is really perfected and we have truly and sincerely gone to the second step where we do not feel ourselves as the doer, then and only then we can let go of the first step. Otherwise, we are going to sink into tamas and inertia and falsehood and ignorance and all those, dark things. This has to be absolutely clear. In the name of surrender, नहीं सब कुछ भगवान कर रहे हैं, मैं तो कुछ नहीं कर रहा. It is basically hypocrisy if it is not honest and sincere. Okay, so the introspection has to be very brutal self-introspection. Very, very brutal. Brutal, I'm using a probably harsh word, but the yogi has to be, the sadhak seeker has to be, merciless with himself. Do not look at other people's faults, look at your own and do it mercilessly. Right? So, first, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. This is the first part. This is what he will call karma yoga in the next paragraph. Okay? A sacrifice to whom? To a deity who is the supreme and only self. Capital S. Though by him not yet realized in his own being. So you believe, you have faith that there is such a thing called the supreme and only self. That is the deity. Self के लिए word is Atman. Deity के लिए the English word is Deva. Okay. In the Gita, Deva Deva, to make it more clear that he who is the deity of all deities. Right. So there is this Deva Deva. There is this highest deity.
Can you repeat?
There is
Can
this
you repeat?
supreme.
Can you repeat? I lost you in between. Your voice was breaking. Sorry, maybe
For self, the word is Atman. So if you say supreme and only self, the Sanskrit word would be Paramatman, supreme self, Paramatman, like that. Deity के लिए the word English word equivalent would be Deva. Direct translation. अब जैसे मराठी में तो देवा ही बोलते हैं गॉड को, but in Gita it is specified, so it is called Deva Deva. The Gita distinguishes between the supreme divine, which it calls by various names, Purushottama being the most standard word, but several other words, Param Brahma, Paraha Purushaha, Paramatma, Parameshwara, all these words. Okay, Deva Deva, these are all words for that same highest thing. This should be they are why different words, because they are referring to a different aspect of that supreme reality. That Parameshwara refers to the Shakti aspect, Paramatman refers to the absolutely essential aspect, that which is the bedrock of all creation. Okay, Purushottama refers to that with which one can have relations of bhakti, right? So that Ananda thing comes in when we use that word like that. Okay, Brahman because Param Brahma, because Brahman is the highest word of the Upanishads. So to distinguish, you say Param Brahma, like that. Everything is Brahman, but he is Param Brahma. Okay, so a deity who is the supreme and only self, though by him not yet realized in his own being. Even if you do not have the experience, आपको realize नहीं हुआ, but you have the faith, you believe. श्रद्धावान लभते ज्ञानम तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः नायम लोकोस्ति न परो न सुखम संशयात्मनः. इस तरह से वर्सेस आते हैं towards the end of the 4th chapter. It is the man of faith who gets the knowledge, because obviously it is something higher than you. Unless you have belief that it exists, how will you ever make even one step forward towards it? There has to be some kind of belief that yes, it is there. A pure atheism or a pure this thing, no, I won't believe at all that a God exists. That will not allow you to go further, right? So even though it is not realized, you have to believe. And obviously we've had some kind of glimpse of that supreme and only self or God. That is why we are attending these sessions. But it does not remain all the time in our consciousness. So that is why the absolute and essential need of Shraddha, faith, believe that he is there. Okay? And chalo, मैं belief पे ज़्यादा stress कर रहा हूँ इस वक्त, but to offer your actions to whom? To this deity, to this supreme and only self. Okay? As an example, as an extended example, 18th chapter में there's a very beautiful verse, number 46. So there it says slightly differently, the universal act says, Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. From whom? Yatah pravrittir bhutanam. From whom all the beings have come into, pravritti literally means forward motion. From whom all the beings have come into existence. Okay? Yena sarvam idam tatam. By whom all this is extended. You have to understand to whom you are sacrificing your works. Right? Right now, what is the karma we are doing? Swadhyaya ka karma kar rahe hain. Shravan, Manan, Swadhyaya. This karma has to be offered to this supreme and only self. Okay? By whom all this is extended, or in other words, of whom all this is the self extension. Yena sarvam idam tatam. Tatam means extended. Idam means this. Yena means by whom. So yatah pravrittir bhutanam, just an example, not necessary here perhaps, but to further elucidate the point. This is that entity to whom you have to do your works as a sacrifice. And what is the Gita's promise? If you do this, swakarmana tam abhyarchya. This is 18.46. Okay. If you worship this entity by your actions, siddhim vindati manavaha, you attain perfection, nothing short of perfection. Okay. In the verse 3.20, it even uses the word samsiddhi. Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadaya. It is through karmana eva, through karmana indeed, that the Janak Adi Rajarshis, they attain to what? Samsiddhi, perfect perfection. Even stronger, not just siddhi, samsiddhi. Okay, so this much so far. This is the initial step. Just pausing here. Any doubt कि इसमें कुछ clarity कि किसको offer करना होता है? This is the first step. Offering one's action to that deity, to that supreme and only self. Any comment, any question, any doubt here so far? Otherwise, we'll move forward. Okay. This is the initial step. Okay. Next. Second, not only the desire of the fruit, but the claim to be the doer of works has to be renounced. Yes. This is that 3.27. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Ahankara, जैसे मैंने पहले भी बताया, aham means I, kara means to do. I do. Ahankara vimudhatma, deluded by ahankara, karta aham iti manyate. Man thinks that he is the doer, but this is the second step. Who is doing it? Prakriteh kriyamanani. इसमें प्रकृति के 3 steps दिए हैं. The first step is when you are involved in the prakriti. You are part of the prakriti. So you offer that action keeping in mind that there is a Purusha for whom the Prakriti is doing everything, but you are part of the Prakriti. That is the first step. In the second step, you step back from the Prakriti and you realize that it is Prakriti who is doing everything. Upadrashta, witness. Okay? 13th chapter में verse आता है, बहुत powerful, मैंने पहले भी quote किया था. ज़्यादा आगे का anticipate करने से it kind of breaks the rhythm of the session, but just I'm telling the number because it's a very important shloka. 13th chapter, Upadrashta Anumanta cha, number 23. Okay, so the word Upadrashta therein in that shloka. Okay, so then one step you have taken back from the being part of the Prakriti to the Upadrashta. In a rough sense, you could say from being the Kshara Purusha, that which is involved in Prakriti, to the Akshara Purusha. Okay, and third step, you are no longer just a witness, you are the master, you are the Ishvara. Upadrashta Anumanta cha, Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. You reach that step of being the great Lord and great master of the Prakriti. The word Swami that is used for yogis. Swami means he who has gotten control over his nature. My surname, for example, Jaina. Jaina means somebody who has conquered himself. That is what it means. So complete mastery. Right? So, second, not only the desire of the fruit, but the claim to be the doer of works, yes, has to be renounced in the realization of the self, the Atman, as the equal, the inactive, the immutable principle, and of all works as simply the operation of universal force of the nature soul, Prakriti, the unequal, active, mutable power, being established in what the Gita calls the Brahmi Sthiti, or still clearer vocabulary, Akshara Purusha. This is the vocabulary coined by the Gita. Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and Purushottama. And Prakriti ke liye Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. Absolute basic fundamentals of Adhyatma Vidya. Okay? Well, right? So this is basically the Jnana Yoga part. वो अगले paragraph में, that is what Sri Aurobindo will call it. Okay? जो श्लोका था 3.27. प्रकृतेः क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ताहम iti manyate. It is Prakriti through the three gunas, which is doing everything, deluded by egoism. Man thinks that he is the doer. अगेन इसके ऊपर इलेबोरेशन में 4th चैप्टर में आता है, कर्मण्य कर्मयः पश्येत अकर्मणि च कर्मयः सबुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु सयुक्तः कृत्स्न कर्मकृत् 4.18. He who sees action and inaction and inaction and action, like that. Basically, who sees that inaction and I am not doing anything. Action is happening, things are happening, and obviously, I mean, for that one has to overcome one's egoism. And if we relax a little bit, I mean, it's only when we get tensed up or stressed, they're like, how will I do this? How will I do this? Arey, you are not doing it. It is the universal nature which is doing it. Step back a little and see her working. Things will happen even if you are not there. Rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve yeva sthita pratyanikeshu yodha. Even if you are not there, these warriors have no future. They were already been killed by me. This is one of the great teachings of the Gita. It is already foredestined. Who do you think you are? Nobody is indispensable. So all this is egoism. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. I think the point is made. Lastly,
Anmol,
yes.
Anmol, before we go to the last point,
yes.
if we just take a pause and elaborate to better understand the second point, for a second, all of us as participants on this call, the usual thought would be that, look, we think it's important as Sattvic individuals, that's Prakriti Sattva, taking up, that's the one that's acting. But if you get involved, you feel I, as the Sattvic element, am participating in this call, or you are giving this course explanation. But if we take a pause back, as a witnessing consciousness, there is a supreme energy which is bringing multiple individuals to better understand and have clarity, and that is happening by default.
Exactly.
And we are witnessing that is what.
Exactly.
So I'm just trying to understand. See, if this is what it's spelling out, to bring it into an operation, into an experience, this means you have to, at every second, whatever nature is bringing to our lives, each of us has to be in a witnessing consciousness, seeing what nature is doing. And,
yes.
And just participating as a witness. That is what I think you are elaborating.
That is only the second step. That is only the second step. Your final aim is to be the master of nature. Vashi. This is the word used in one of the Upanishads. Controller. You have to become the Ishvara of your own Prakriti. That is what is called Swarat. But what you are saying, that is the second step, wherein you realize that it is the universal Prakriti which is doing everything. Like we said last time, when the Tamoguna increases in me, then I am happy to be inert and ignorant and all that. When the Rajoguna rises in me, then I am all action, kinesis. I want to do this, I want to do this. When the Sattvaguna rises in me, then I am all for knowledge and balance and all that. Right? But all this is nothing but the play of the gunas. To see this, that this is the play of the gunas. But what is the aim? The aim is not just to see the play of the gunas. The aim is to transform these gunas. And for that you have to become gunatita. Transformation of gunas मैंने पहले बताया था. Tamas becomes shama, absolute quiet. Rajas becomes tapas, pure force. Sattva becomes jyotihi, pure light. Even sattva is not pure light, because sattva is the light which is reflected in the mind. You get it?
Right.
So this is the second step. You are right. It's a big step. It's a big step to be able to see the workings of your nature as the workings of Prakriti. Not a very big step also. I mean, it's quite common. You can see कि ऐसा मेरे अंदर हो रहा है. This is happening in me. The more by meditation, by the Drishta Bhav, Sakshi Bhav, the more we cultivate basically this separation between the Purusha and the Prakriti, the more we can see this happening within us. But this is only the second step.
Anmol,
aim is to become the master of Prakriti. This should be absolutely clear. We should not remain satisfied with the second step.
Correct. But my point here was that when it says divine will, this is where I wanted your clarity.
Where is the divine
will in coming in means that whatever be the events that are happening second by second, what we are perceiving as our reality at that moment is divine will. So it's like that's the card. Like this moment, the divine will is that these 10 individuals are all listening to these lines of the Gita, which are the 3 steps. So divine will at this step is that it's coming to us. How do we partake it is either as a drishta or with the ego consciousness of the Sattvic persona. But the point I'm trying to highlight is that the divine will means that whatever is being rolled out to our lives minute by minute, that seems to be divine will then, correct?
Um, I mean, in a sense, you can say this, but it is risky to think like this because the divine will, see, for the divine will to play out the way it is pure and original in the world and in the human consciousness, one has to be very pure. The world has to be very pure and free of ego and free of distortion. If whatever is happening, if we say that that is the divine will, then, you know, I mean, it's not the divine will because it does get distorted to the extent that our ego distorts it, our sense of division, ignorance, and all that, and more so in the collective. So we cannot say that everything that is happening in the world is the divine will. On the contrary, what is happening in the world at large is a battle between the divine and the anti-divine forces. So ऐसे नहीं कह सकते, but yes, if you are having the vision, it depends from where you are looking at, sir. Okay.
No,
If you are
so
looking at,
Anmol,
yes,
just to understand, because see, you cannot go to step 3 if you're not
yes,
a master
correct,
of step 2. You
correct,
explained
correct.
it very
You
well.
are right. You are
If we
right.
don't
This
have
can be an
clarity
intermediate
of,
step. That much I agree with you. You can
so
be in this
इसी में,
poise. You can
right,
be in
right.
this poise that this is all being done by the universal Prakriti, and that universal Prakriti has the divine behind him, and something of his will is acting through this Prakriti. Okay, but you have to go to that third step, wherein by the force of your bhakti, devotion, and complete surrender, you actually know what the divine will is. You don't just believe that it is the divine will. You know what is the divine will. And once you know it, you can interfere in the workings of the universe. People of Sri Aurobindo's stature, you know, they could interfere. Then you can, your cosmic movements, of course, it's a very high stage. But, you know, Sri Aurobindo sitting in his room, basically, you know, I call his room in Pondicherry the control room of the Second World War. I mean, it can sound, you know, very pompous to somebody who has not read those books of Sri Aurobindo's devotees and all, but it's a fact. So you can reach that level of power. That's a physical example. The forces that he was bringing down to the world, it's beyond our imagination. So, you know, that power can be reached where you can bring in the required changes, the needed changes to the universal play. But for that, obviously, you know, that cannot come without total absence of ego. So asli bhakti hai that cannot come, and the true power cannot come without absence of ego. That is why the asuras never really get the true power because they don't. वो निरहंकारा नहीं हो पाता है उनका. हाँ, धवल जी, say something.
So I was just trying to understand Yogeshji's question in the sense, and the way I thought about it was this: that in day-to-day workings, right? How do I symptomatically understand that it is the nature working of Prakriti and I am being witness?
In this sense, I mean, you can feel it.
You can no. So
Like for example, you're eating your food, but are you digesting it? No.
No, not in that sense. Not in that sense. Like what I meant to say was that let's say a sattva gun is rising, you are witnessing even tamogun rising in you, right? But then the question is, at that point, like for example, let's say a sudden fear, a moment of fear starts arising in you, in your day-to-day life.
You pray, na?
Sorry.
You pray, na? You pray to the divine.
Exactly. So no. So just let me complete this idea. So this now you realize that the fear is arising in you. At that point in time, you know that that tamogun is rising in you. At that point, you remember an offer, right? And say, here is what I offer and help. You pray, as you said, right? So this in itself is but at that time of praying and all, we do that effort, but without being the doer of the works, which is meaning I'm not.
What is it inside you that is giving you the impulse to pray? It is the psychic being within you.
Correct.
Which to your external mind, the thinking mind, the conscious mind is giving the idea to pray. From where is it coming? It is coming from the Antaratman.
Right. So this is what I was trying to understand in day-to-day affairs. I don't know whether that example helps, Yogesh. By this is what I was trying to understand. I understood from this paragraph that our
Anmol, just to keep it simple, think there are 10 different individuals all listening to these words as you are explaining.
Yes.
For this moment, the reality is, if all of us are absolutely still, it is the divine will which wants the clarity of this path to be understood. And the 10 are not 10 separate individuals, but that one universal consciousness explanation to the universal consciousness, right?
Correct.
Otherwise,
are
we
no
are 10
10
separate
There are no
identities.
10. The self is one. We are all one.
Correct, correct. So what that shows means that whatever after the call gets over, we all get involved into our other activities. But what it shows that for that second, whatever the outcome of the universe is opening to us is actually what it's like, what is being rolled out, right? When you play cards, the cards are rolled out to you. You pick up those, right? That means every second, what I'm understanding is that at
Yeah.
every second, what is being rolled out,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
consciousness
Is
at
the
that
divine
point
rolling out the play further? Yes, correct.
is the play further.
Yes.
And
Even
if
regarding these
your
sessions and your
mind
mention of the phrase
is
divine will,
back to the ego consciousness.
yeah. Sorry, please complete. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just
So
saying.
this is the point I'm saying, right?
Yes, yes. I'm just saying,
So
okay,
what I'm saying,
what you're saying that,
right?
we are all together and we are trying to read and understand this book and your use of the phrase divine will. So remember, I had quoted this sentence from the mother, the influence of the Gita has become decisive. This is something cosmic, something not known to us. Mother reveals this. It is because the influence of the Gita has become decisive. It's like a divine decree. Absolutely. Now the Gita will take no stopping. Enough of waiting for 5,000 years. Now I won't wait further to feed my children with the milk of immortality. As simple as that. And it is that divine will which is making us all together study here. Just to give an example and to correlate with something which I had told earlier. You were saying something. If you need to say, then please do.
Yeah. So the point I was making is that at this moment, the 10 of us are on the call. We are one. And if you look at the operation of the universal power Prakriti, Prakriti is enabling this illumination to come down in the
Correct.
form of this cosmic text. And then
Correct.
when the call gets over and whatever else we are doing, our engagement with the universe then is that reality of what the next
Correct.
moment is opening to each one of
Correct.
us, right?
Correct.
Now, at
Correct.
that time, is our center of gravity back onto the ego consciousness that I
That
am
depends.
Yogesh? And
That depends upon us. That
Correct,
depends upon
correct,
us. How much we are satata yukta. How much we
correct,
are making constantly an effort to remember the divine. How much we
correct,
are trying to consciously practice yoga.
correct.
If
So the
after the
second
call,
step,
think into
yeah,
that sort
so
of thing, like a Christian who goes to church on a Sunday, I have done my duty to the divine by going. Then obviously you have broken the link. Then obviously you have
correct.
fallen back into the ego. That is why
So the
yoga is
point,
not easy. It's satata. Constantly
correct.
one has to do it. So
So the
one has
step
to be
two,
conscious. That is what mother says. Na?
correct,
First that you have to do is to be conscious. Shri Aurobindo का एक
correct.
sentence है. First become conscious of thyself within, then think and act.
So this means, Anmol, step two, to be a master of step two means that at every second you should be aware. It
Yes.
is the
You're
Prakriti
aware that
that is
things are
operating
happening,
through
you're not really doing them.
Antaradrishta.
You're aware that things are happening. It's
Okay.
very simple. This is not to be complicated too much. Things are happening. Okay. Things are happening.
Right,
It's the
right,
and
right.
one has to rise to quite a high level of sattva and illumination to be able to see this quite clearly. Jo rajogun pradhan hoga, he cannot see things this way. It's only when the sattva guna rises to a fair extent, then one can see this. Things are happening. They are happening automatically. I am not doing them. They are happening. It's the divine working through the universal nature. Things are happening. Basically, this phrase, सब हो रहा है. वो प्रकृति सब कुछ कर रही है. प्रकृति मैंने जैसे last time बताया, pro means forward, kriti means creation. So that progressive creation, that force which is taking the creation forward every moment, it is acting. It is, like you said, he is rolling out the play. He is rolling, and that is happening continuously. And you get into that state. Things are happening basically. I'm not doing them. Things are happening. Yes, yes.
Right.
Dhavalji?
Right. I get it now. I
So
get this,
Anmol
that
bhai,
You
you're
get it,
completely in that state, immersed 24/7, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. That's why
so-
mother says, even in your sleep, you have to be conscious. There is a book called The Yoga of Sleep and Dreams. Compilation hai. Yes, tell me, Dhavalji.
that is why, we say this idea came to me or this intuition came to me.
Exactly.
We never say,
Exactly.
even we say thoughts come to me. They don't,
Yes.
we don't think. That is why the
Yes.
language is also
Yes.
automatically different, right? At that point.
Yes. And we say, my body is feeling like, वो बोलता है, we don't say I. there's a difference between that pure self-consciousness and that part which is the instrumental part of the personality. My thoughts. You don't say
Yeah.
I the thought.
Yeah. Instrument. See, this
You never say
separation.
I the thought. You say my thought.
Yeah. This separation
that.
which you just mentioned,
Yes.
right, is very
Yes.
critical. Very
Yes.
critical.
Karana and Karana.
Karana and Karana. Yeah, because
Karana-
that.
Yeah.
That
Karana
separation is
or-
very difficult to achieve. Is what I'm thinking.
Yoga.
Because
Yoga is
no.
Yoga is the highest endeavor.
Yes.
Divine is the highest thing a man can aim for. Yoga. There is no higher endeavor than yoga. There is no higher vidya than Adhyatma Vidya.
True.
I mean-
Even to achieve the separation of instrumental personality with that of that separate this
It
thing
will take some doing. You are right. It will take some
a
doing.
big thing. Yeah.
Or rather, it will take some happening. Okay. Lastly, the Supreme Self has to be seen as the Supreme Purusha governing this Prakriti. So till now you were saying that it is the Prakriti doing things, but now you see that it is the Purusha who is governing this Prakriti. Uska master wo hai. You reach that Purusha consciousness. Okay. Of whom the soul in nature is a partial manifestation. Vahi, Mamayvamsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. It's a portion of me. By whom all works are directed in a perfect transcendence through nature. So he is perfectly free. He is perfectly free from action, inaction, everything, right? And in that state of perfect transcendence and perfect freedom, through nature, all is being done by that Supreme Purusha, that Purushottama. Okay? And that realization the Gita says again and again, essays on the Gita will say also again and again that Purusha cannot be attained by bhakti. Without love, devotion, bhakti, surrender, that Purushottama cannot be attained. वो कहते हैं 12th chapter में कि even through this thing relationless and all that you attain to me, but then again he clarifies कि that full realization of that Purushottama, it does not come without bhakti. It does not come. Okay. To him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. And in periods when you are not able to feel that him, okay, if you are able to feel that him all the time, then you're obviously in a very enlightened state. But that is the times when one has to have faith as your walking staff and believe in the grace of the divine. Remind oneself of such, aphorisms of Sri Aurobindo. Your lover is waiting for you at the end of the journey. He is waiting. He is there. That Shraddha has to be, that's why mother says, you have to protect your faith, like a very precious thing. Faith is very, very precious. She says only at the very end, she says, no matter how great the traveler and however great something, in the end it is found complete reliance on the divine grace. I will try to post the exact words, a very powerful sentence by mother. So that, faith and that reliance on the divine grace, and it is that which will pull me forward. And it is there, he is there to have that faith with Shraddha. 4th chapter के end में 2-3 verses हैं श्रद्धा के ऊपर, and it says कि he who is not having faith, उसको ना ये दुनिया मिलती है ना वो दुनिया मिलती है, कुछ नहीं मिलता उसको. नायम लोकोस्ति न परह न सुखम संशयात्मना. He gets neither happiness nor this world nor the other world. He's absolutely, devastated. वो कहीं का नहीं रहता. Samshayatma vinashyati. The doubtful soul perishes. Right? This is verse number 4.39 to 4.40. These two verses. Yes, sir. Tell me.
Anmol bhai, I'm reminded of our session with Sampath ji where he elaborates the etymology of the word Shraddha. Where he
You can
said,
share the link. There is a Medium link, Medium article by Sampath ji on that.
Acha. I don't remember that, but yeah.
I think I'll be able to find out. Yeah.
And cling to truth in the mother's first floor there as we go to the darshan, right? That was the translation.
Probably the word dha there would be having the sense of holding on to it. This is my guess. Shrat ka kya hai, I don't know.
Sat, he says, is truth in that sense.
Yeah, but like there is a Vedic prayer. Shraddham pratar havamahe.
Shraddham madhyam dinam pari. Yeah.
So Shraddha is invoked as a goddess. मुझे unfortunately पूरा याद नहीं है. Shraddham pratar havamahe. So in the morning, I do the avahan of Shraddha. Shraddham Madhyam
Madhyam
Dinam.
Dinam, in the middle
I
day,
invoke Shraddha during the afternoon.
afternoon.
Then
Yeah.
Shraddha Shraddheshu Nimruchi, something. Shraddha
Yeah.
Shraddheshu Payehanaha, something like this. We can
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We
So
have done this
it is
phrase. Yes.
invoked as a goddess
Yes.
in
Yes.
the Veda Samhita.
Yes. 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 I have the translation on my blog. I have it. Yeah.
Please share it if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anmol, in the last class, you
Yes,
had
sir.
mentioned on one of the points that the consciousness of these individuals now constantly gets established and doesn't descend, it's above the head. And you
Yes.
mentioned it, you showed it, right? So
Yes.
at what step? Is that at the second step itself, or is it at the third step that finality happens?
I would not be able to answer that precisely. What I said, so that there is no confusion, at least regarding what I said, was this, that as long as your consciousness is up till here, you see, because this is the tantric system. ये जो चक्रवाला center होता है ना, this is the tantric system, and what we are reading right now is a Vedantic text. So to synthesize them takes a little doing, but essentially what I said is that till the time your consciousness is here, you're a human being, you're still a mental being and all that, and the aim is to have the consciousness stationed here. So Sri Aurobindo says that in this yoga, the consciousness takes its station above the head. Now, I mean, logically, if you want to put it, if it has attained the divine consciousness, then it would have to be the third step. Because if it's stationed here, you will start getting not merely the witness power, but even the control over the Prakriti. So it would be closer to the third step. Maybe not the full and exhaustive, way of the third step, but it would certainly be something of the third step. Because if you are here, then you start dominating, you become Ishvara. You become Ishvara. वो आपके अंदर total mastery आने लगेगी over your nature. So closer to that. That would be my, I mean, because मेरा ऊपर चढ़ा नहीं है, it's not permanently there. So, that requires a lot of meditation, and I mean, the lower centers pull you down, and also these things can only be said truly from experience only. But
Right.
logically also, what I have said, I think it makes sense.
It
Right?
makes sense. Makes sense. Thanks.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So to him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. The whole being has to be surrendered to him, and the whole consciousness raised up to dwell in this divine consciousness. Again, that raised up. This is what is the raising up of the consciousness, to dwell here in the divine, in the spirit, right? In this divine consciousness, so that the human soul may share in his divine transcendence of nature and of his works and act in a perfect spiritual liberty. To him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. The whole being has to be surrendered to him. इसमें I have in the margin, I have noted 18.66. That is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Also, I have noted 12.8. 12.8 is Mayyeva Mana Adhatsva Mayi Buddhim Niveshaya Nivasishyasi Mayyeva Ata Urdhvam Na Samshaya. You will dwell in the divine. Nivasishyasi Mayyeva, that is 12.8. Yeah, and the whole consciousness raised up to dwell in this divine consciousness. So that is where I took the word from, Nivasishyasi, so that the human soul may share in his divine transcendence of nature and of his works and act in a perfect spiritual liberty. Right.
Anmol,
I think we can
Anmol,
finish this chapter today. Yes.
Anmol, how do you elaborate spiritual liberty?
Okay. Share in his divine transcendence of nature and of
Perfect
his
spiritual liberty.
act in a perfect spiritual liberty. Perfect spiritual liberty means that, your actions, like Krishna's consciousness, he is absolutely free. Whatever his actions are, he's not answerable to anybody that way. It's not like irresponsible or anything, but it is a perfect freedom from which the actions are originating. This is what I understand. And that cannot be achieved without perfect transcendence. Perfect spiritual liberty, it's a very, very good question, actually. How do you define that? I don't know. The example that comes to my mind is only Sri Krishna, wherein, he's living in that he's not bound by any rules. Rules are for fools. Very dangerous if taken wrongly. But rules are for fools. Rules are for those who are not perfectly free. If you are perfectly free and you are truly liberated, then there is the need for rules.
But Sri Krishna also accepts Gandhari Shrapa, right? Very
But
willing
that he does, that he accepts in his freedom.
in his freedom. Exactly. That is what I'm saying. But
That's
he
what.
accepts that, and that's why he also in his earlier life, the Asura says, "I want to kill you because you killed me now." So he says, "Okay, you will get a chance." So that's why the Jara kills him, right?
Okay. Vali, they say it is Vali who became Jara. Okay. Arora ji, Madan Gopal ji.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
read. I can read next
Not
paragraph.
very satisfying, I know, but
No. It's say.
one has to experience these things. We can just
Yeah, correct. Say,
spin
right.
a web of words as much as you want, but until you get the
No.
experience, it's all useless.
I agree. That's
Yeah.
true.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I
would
can.
like to read the last paragraph?
I have the book with me, Anmol bhai, so I will read from the book and speak in the phone. Yeah,
You want to read the last paragraph?
I can read, no problem. I have the book also, no? So yeah.
Please go ahead. Yeah, if you want to give somebody else a chance, I mean,
Yeah, sure. Anybody else, please go
Archana
ahead.
ji, Himanshu ji, anybody else would like to read the last paragraph?
I would like to read Anmol bhai.
Please read. Ritudi, you haven't read. Please read. The first step is Karma Yoga from here.
Okay. The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works. And here the Gita's insistence is on action. The second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. And here the insistence is on knowledge. But the sacrifice of work continues and the path of works become one with, but does not disappear into the path of knowledge. The last step is yoga, adoration and seeking the supreme self as the divine being. And here the insistence is on devotion. But the knowledge is not subordinated and only.
I think she has got dropped off. Archana ji, would you like to take up from where she paused?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a problem in her connection. Yes.
The last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self as the divine being. And here the insistence is on devotion, but the knowledge is not subordinated, only raised, vitalized, and fulfilled. And still the sacrifice of works continues. The double path becomes the triune way of knowledge, works, and
Triune way.
triune way of knowledge, works, and devotion. And the fruit of the sacrifice, the one fruit still placed before the seeker, is attained union with the divine being and oneness with the supreme divine nature.
Right. So in the last sentence, Sri Aurobindo brings in that, Vedic thought, आप किस फल की इच्छा से यज्ञ कर रहे हैं, that sort of thing. So again, this is obviously continuation of the previous paragraph. The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works, and here the Gita's insistence is on action. So you do. I will act. Okay, and this insistence on action remains right through till the end. It never stops. Action stops, world stops. Very simple. Okay. The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works. I might as well say here to relate the steps that he is giving here. This is the order in which the books are arranged in the synthesis of yoga. So first in synthesis, we have that introduction part, 5 chapters. Then what do we have? Karma Yoga. Then Jnana Yoga. Then only 8 chapters on Bhakti Yoga. And then the longest part of the book, Sri Aurobindo's addition basically to the Gita's Yoga, the Yoga of self-perfection. Why are they in that order? Why is not Jnana first or Bhakti first? It is Karma, then Jnana, then Bhakti, and then that one. And in his lifetime, when the synthesis of yoga was published, first it was published, only the Karma Yoga section was published. Same like with the Gita. इसका जो first series है 24 chapters, The last essay is titled The Gist of the Karma Yoga. For 6 years, 1922 to 1928, only that book was there, only that Karma Yoga part. So, the absolute, I mean, it is dead serious, basically, this demarcation that he's giving. Karma, Jnana, Bhakti, that way. Okay?
Then why not, Anmol Bhai, as an idea, do this in that order as well?
Meaning?
Do even synthesis alongside.
We'll think about it, obviously. I mean, पहले let this. अभी तो इसमें भी थोड़ा break हो रहा है. I'm not able to do on Fridays sometimes. So anyway, the second is Jnana Yoga, but good idea, very good idea. The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works, and here the Gita's insistence is on action. The second is Jnana Yoga. So see, Jnana, it's just a Sanskrit tidbit, nothing else. The pronunciation is Jnana. Okay. जानता हूं, it's not ज्ञान है, वो current form में हो गया है, but that is अपभ्रंश actually. It is the distortion of the original sound. The original sound is jnana. Look at the spelling here, Jnana. Okay. The second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. And here the insistence is on knowledge. So the second part of the book, the chapter number 7 to 12, 7th chapter, how does it begin? Jnana Vijnana Yoga. After knowing this, nothing will remain to be known, he says. How does the 6th chapter end? The first section of the Gita. Tapasvibhyodiko yogi jnanepyopi matodikaha karmebhyaschadiko yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. And when the Gita says yogi there, it means karma yoga. What is that word? Jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yogina. Okay. So, and here the insistence is on knowledge, but the sacrifice of works continues and the path of works becomes one with, but does not disappear into the path of knowledge. Very important. There is no bifurcation stick between them or trifurcation, nothing like that. They unite and become perfectly, and actually at any given time. Acha, what do we do the Karma Yoga by? By what power of our being, our personality do we do the Karma Yoga? By the will? By what do we do the Jnana Yoga? By the thinking power in us, the mental being, intellect and all that. By what do we do the Bhakti Yoga? By the heart and emotions and all that. Can at any given moment of time, can we say to any of these parts, okay, you remain silent? They are all united now. If we use our heart, we have to use a certain bit of will in it, certain bit of intelligence. So to separate them is basically not the right way. They are one. But as the yoga progresses, this is the natural course and it becomes perfectly one. This is what he's saying. It's a very, very important thing. Again, वही जो इंटरनेशनल योगा डे वाले में मैंने इसीलिए ये दोनों पैराग्राफ किए थे, because it gives a very clear idea that this is how the yoga evolves. Okay, does not mean that कि मैं केवल कर्म योगा कर रहा हूँ, I will not do jnana. No, not like that. Not like that. Predominance उसमें रहेगा. You will be more in that, prakriti wala thing, part of the prakriti, then the witness of the prakriti, and finally, by your surrender to the Purushottama, become the master of the prakriti. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehe asmin purushaha paraha. Right? 13.23. So the last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self. It's very profound, has to be read slowly. The last step, I'll just read from the beginning, sorry. The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works, and here the Gita's insistence is on action. The second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. And here the insistence is on knowledge, but the sacrifice of works continues and the path of works becomes one with, but does not disappear into the path of knowledge. So the works do not stop. Okay. The last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self as the divine being. This needs a little understanding. So self, mera khud ka self, individual self. Who is the divine? The divine is nobody else than my own Supreme Self. Self bolte na, mera khud ka self, I the self. Who is the divine? He is nothing but your own Supreme Self. There is no difference between you and the divine. Soham asmi, aham brahmasmi, all those things. It is our own Supreme Self. वो हमारा खुद का परम आत्मन है. And when that Supreme Self is realized as the divine being. Again, as I said, self is like the essential thing, that which is the sort of the bedrock of the whole existence, the principle, the supporting thing, the essence. There is no better word for the self than essence. But when that is known as the divine being, as the Deva Deva, as the Purushottama, as what the Gita calls Sri Bhagavan, that Paramatman is known as the Purushottama. कि मेरा खुद का जो सुप्रीम सेल्फ है वही जो है, that is the Parameshwara, that is the Purushottama, that is the divine. But the insistence here practically for sadhana purpose is on that supreme self is nothing but my own supreme self. It is not separate from me. ये point अगर दिमाग में घुस जाए, it's a great mental victory, I'm telling you. Divine is not separate from me. He is my own supreme self. Bhakti Yoga mein sometimes there is this problem, Dvaitavad, he and me. No. He and you are same, Soham Asmi. One has to reach that state of Advaita. Otherwise, the realization is not perfect. Right? That's why I dare say it's not Madhvacharya who dominates Indian consciousness. It is Shankaracharya who dominates it. I mean, in the traditionals, this thing. Advaita dominates, okay? The last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self as the divine being. And here the insistence is on devotion. From the end of this thing, 12th chapter, Mat karma krin mat parmo, mat bhaktaha sangavarjitaha, nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, yah samameti pandava. Who attains him? He gives the conditions. Mat karma krit, he who does his works for me. This is 11.55. Mat karma krin mat paramo, he who regards me as the supreme. Second chapter में ही आता है somewhere yukta asita matparah, being united, he sits regarding me as the supreme. But uska clear expostulation that comes later on. So mat karma krin mat paramo mat bhaktah, who becomes my devotee. Sanga varjitah, he who is free from attachment. Why should we be free from attachment? Because truth is infinite by definition. Satyam jnanam anantam brahma, and any attachment limits us, and the truth is limitless. By definition, truth is limitless and infinite. That is the reason for not getting attached to anything. Sangavarjitaha nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, he who is free from all enmity towards any being. Okay? किसी के लिए वैर नहीं होना चाहिए. Yah samameti pandava, such a person attains to me, says Sri Krishna, Sri Bhagavan over there. And here the insistence is on devotion, but the knowledge is not subordinated, only raised. It's not that you say that knowledge is inferior, bhakti superior and all that, subordinate vagara karne. It all joins, it becomes one. Works, knowledge and devotion, they become perfectly one. He who is truly having the knowledge, how can he not serve? And how can he not serve with full love and devotion? And like that, you can, he who is having that love, what worth is that love if you are not serving whom you love? Or if you don't, how will you love? How will you love properly if you don't know that person whom you claim to love? And like that. How will you work if your knowledge is not proper, or if your heart and soul is not into it? So all three become perfectly one. Right? So, and here the insistence, but the knowledge is not subordinated, only raised, vitalized, and fulfilled, and still the sacrifice of works continues. Again, the continuous insistence. Works never stop. Action never stops. The double path becomes the triune way of knowledge, works, and devotion. And the fruit of the sacrifice, the one fruit still placed before the seeker, is attained. What is that supreme fruit? Union with the divine being and oneness with the supreme divine nature. This in a sense refers to, yes, we'll come to it. We'll come to you, Dhaval. Oneness, union with the divine being in your consciousness, with the Purushottama, and oneness with the supreme divine nature, with the Paraprakriti. So if the oneness with the supreme divine nature is attained, that tantamounts to the transformation of the nature. So here he is sort of giving a hint of the fourth yoga, the yoga of self-perfection, by which the entire nature is transformed into the divine nature. Right? So he's not mentioning it explicitly as the fourth, but if you want, you can take it in this way. Hanji, Dhavalji, tell me.
So here
Already 9:08, so
and
the session is basically over, or Those who want to stay can stay. Those who want to leave can leave. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, vitalized and fulfilled, right?
Mm,
That means
mm.
here knowledge acquires that necessary power
Yes.
to. Is that what the meaning is? Yeah.
But
Is
the
that,
knowledge is not subordinated, only raised. Yes, it is through that power of love that it's basically raised to its highest level.
but knowledge also acquires power. The shakti of the meaning that
Yes. Yes.
right.
Yes.
That's how we say,
Yes.
because knowledge
Yes.
without power is not useful
Yes.
at all.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to
You
actually.
can say that, yeah. Through that devotion, through that love, that power comes into that knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here,
Huh.
I mean, if you ask me, what I feel, what is meaning by raised is that it is raised to its highest point. Because if you do not know the divine, then that knowledge is not proper. And that knowledge of the divine cannot come except by devotion.
Okay. Yeah. I think that is more appropriate then.
I
Yeah.
mean, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it makes more sense. I agree with you because
But
there
आप जो point बोल रहे हैं ना, that is the word vitalized. So that energy is put into it, it is made omnipotent. That knowledge is not just a, impotent knowledge. It is an omnipotent knowledge.
in that sense. Okay. Okay. That
And then it becomes fulfilled because it is raised to its sublime height. It is given that omnipotence. It is vitalized, and then it finds its fulfillment. Then the knowledge can be truly said to have fulfilled itself.
right, because it has to unite. That's the only culmination. Right. Okay. Yeah.
And इसमें the point is, again मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूँ, without devotion, that supreme knowledge of the Purushottama cannot be had. The Gita says this explicitly.
Correct. So, Anmol bhai, can you just repeat once more? The tamas has to be converted to peace, sattva to jyoti.
Shama. I'll tell you the equivalent words.
Huh?
Tamas के लिए the equivalent. This is there in Letters on Yoga Part 1 of CWSA.
Huh?
Tamas के लिए the equivalent is Shama. So Shama means perfect peace. जो शम वर्ड होता है ना, जिससे शांति वगैरह आता है.
हाँ, शम.
शम. शम. श्लोका वाला श and ma. Shama. That total peace basically. Rajas becomes tapas. Tapas means pure energy. Pure chit. Rajas becomes tapas and sattva becomes jyoti. And jyoti means supramental knowledge. It means the plenary knowledge, the complete knowledge. Sattvic knowledge is not the full knowledge. Sattvic knowledge is only the knowledge reflected in the mind. It is part of the guna system. But sattva is transformed into jyoti. I had told once these 7 words for Agni at the 7 levels. So at the level of the physical, it is called chaya. At the level of the vital, it is called dhuma, smoke. At the level of the mental, it is called tejas. At the level of supramental, it is called jyoti. At the level of ananda, it is called vidyut. At the level of chit shakti, it is called Agni. And at the level of Sat, it is called Prakasha. These are the 7 names of Agni. We use these words so casually. बच्चों का नाम ज्योति रख देते हैं, किसी का नाम प्रकाश रख दिया, organization का this and that. This is what these words truly mean.
Can you point to this in your
record of yoga? Record of yoga के बिल्कुल last में है. I'll share the table. It's a fascinating table.
Yeah, please. Yeah. It's very important.
I don't remember the page number, somewhere 1456.
That's okay. Even if you can paste the link, that's.
I'll paste the table.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Anmol, just one question.
Yes, bhai.
In the last paragraph, this line, it says the second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world.
Yes.
So here it's defining that the nature and the world. So it's the knowledge of that. If you had to elaborate, what would you say for this?
Your own, what is its nature in the sense कि इसका तत्व क्या है? Of yourself and of the world, right? So it would constitute ultimately in your realizing that you are Satchidananda. All this time you were seeking after this happiness and that happiness, but then you realize, oh my God, I am bliss.
Beautiful.
You are constituted of that substance called bliss. That is the nature. In fact, जो स्वभाव word है, Sri Aurobindo at one place uses it synonymously with the word Ananda. Like that. So your nature is Ananda. That is one way to understand it. What else can be there? The second is the self-realization knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. What is this world basically? It's basically a play of delight. It's a play of that self-existent conscious being delighting in his own self-discovery. You realize this. You realize that this is the nature of the world. Okay. Sri Aurobindo ke sense mein you realize that this is a play of involution and evolution. That is actually what the true definition of Leela is. Hiding himself from himself and then revealing himself to himself progressively. And you realize
Beautiful.
its principles. There is a unity, for example. जो आइंस्टाइन का वो बहुत बड़ा था साइंस वाले सारे यूनिफाइड फील्ड थ्योरी यू एक्चुअली रियलाइज दैट वन अंडरलाइंग एनर्जी बिहाइंड एवरीथिंग. सारी चीजों के पीछे एक ही तत्व है, एक ही शक्ति है. यू रियलाइज दैट. गीता में
Beautiful.
बार बार आता है, but in obviously Vedantic
So,
language.
Anmol bhai, when you mentioned this, I am reminded again of life divine in the physical world. And you mentioned Einstein. Einstein brought out E is equal to mc square, where mass can be converted to energy, right?
Yes.
But then
Yes.
underlying what Sri Aurobindo says, it is the consciousness. I hope somebody comes up with a spiritual equation. How consciousness is converted to energy or whatever, that in a mathematical sense.
Consciousness becomes energy when ये conscious force करके there is a chapter in the Life Divine, book 1.
Okay.
If you read that chapter, then step by step, Sri Aurobindo tells how the conscious force progressively becomes the 5 elements.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
First, no, not first paragraph, second paragraph.
Acha.
Conscious force ka second paragraph. But obviously you start reading from the first. It's there in book 1 of Life Divine. You read
Okay.
those first 2 paragraphs again and again, you will realize how conscious force becomes this matter. You will realize that.
नहीं बात सही है, because so far whatever I have read, I feel like Life Divine is the technical manual of the creation of the universe.
हाँ, वो ढांचा है पूरे क्रिएशन का, सब कुछ कैसे बना है और सब कुछ कैसे है.
हाँ.
पूरा ढांचा है. The only word I can find right now in my mind is ढांचा. पूरा उसमें स्ट्रक्चर.
हाँ,
He's given the
structure,
whole
that is what
structure of the universe there.
Yeah, entire thing is mapped out like the manual, ये यहाँ है, ये ऐसे हुआ, ये ऐसे हुआ. So it's beautiful.
When you use the word mapped out, Anmol, the core of the teaching, the absolute essence is what you've covered in today's lecture.
Yes.
And over the next few chapters, after Sri Aurobindo has explained the core of the teaching, how does he take the next few steps because the core is already now shared with all of us.
Yeah. I mean, see, as I said earlier, Sri Aurobindo goes about it in a very leisurely fashion. You are looking for a summary of the next few chapters.
I'm just saying that if you see the way it's structured, after the core comes Kurukshetra,
and the creed of the Aryan fighter, man and the battle of life, and
the creed of the Aryan fighter.
Yeah.
So if you
till these 3, it will be basically the the nature of the. जैसे मैंने बोला ना कि it's not all divine will. At a practical level, it is all constantly. It is a fight between the divine and the anti-divine forces. So he'll make you realize the stark reality of this. वहां पे वो एक डेथ का कोटेशन देंगे फ्रॉम द उपनिषद, डेथ दैट डिवावर्स ऑल, आशनाय मृत्यु, बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद का है. बेसिकली द स्टार्क रियलिटी ऑफ द कुरुक्षेत्र नेचर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. बेसिकली दैट इज व्हाट ही इज गोइंग टू टेल in essence.
Okay, got it.
No. And he will say that it is the Indian philosophy, it is the Indian metaphysics which has the courage to say that the Divine Mother is not just Durga, the gracious one, she's also Kali. And you must learn to appreciate her in all her aspects, not just the one that pleases you.
Right.
गीता में जो 11th chapter में image दी हुई है, it is terrifying. If you really imagine it up, जैसे अर्जुन is trembling, you'll start trembling.
Right.
दांतों के बीच में the warriors are stuck. It is such a gory image. And their heads are being crushed, by those teeth. It's a very gory image. So, that pura, the nature of, basically the warlike nature of universe as it is right now. That's what he's saying.
Right.
At a higher stage of evolution, all this struggle and all won't be there. But there is some time before we reach that state.
Also, Anmol bhai, in the subsequent chapters, he elaborates, when you are dominated by this is there, and then finally in the last, again, iteratively comes back to it in the 3 gunas, the 3 modes, the chapter on that, right?
Yes. Uske baad, yes.
I mean, that is the final elaboration, but वो man and the battle of life में भी काफी अच्छा
काफी आ जाएगा. I mean, देखिए, जो सांख्या एंड योगा वाला जो चैप्टर है ना, उसके पहले तक Sri Aurobindo will cover basically up till 2.10. Till then will cover. Then the Sankhya Yoga wala teaching, the self does not die and it is immutable. And those 2 chapters are, they are very hardcore academic theory of spirituality. So
Ah,
let's wait till they come. They can be very interesting.
yeah,
Somebody
yeah,
who
very
has that
interesting.
bent of mind for pure knowledge, उसको तो मजा आ जाएगा उन दोनों chapters को
नहीं
पढ़ के.
मैं I read a little bit, so it's like totally
It's fascinating.
deep dive एकदम deep dive.
Fascinating. I mean, this book is a
Anmol,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
one more thing, one very beautiful thing that you said was the supreme self as the divine being. You said, look, to
Exactly.
understand
I'm glad
this,
that you were able to catch it.
that
Again,
itself,
जिसको आप सुप्रीम सेल्फ बोल रहे हो ना, माइंड यू, आपका
correct.
खुद का सेल्फ. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय सेल्फ? सेल्फ मतलब मैं यार, खुद, और नहीं तो क्या, स्व. That supreme is nothing but your own supreme self. वो आप ही हो. It is you in your supreme poise. But that is when you're realizing it as the essential thing, as the supreme self. But when you realize it as the divine being, that he's a being, he's an entity. That is why Life Divine में जो धवल भाई refer कर रहे हैं. So when Sri Aurobindo speaks of Satchidananda, he doesn't say the pure existence. He says the pure existent. Existent. He's an entity. He's a being with whom you can have relations of love. वो एक रेनबो ह्यूड एफोरिज्म है श्री अरबिंदो का. These are the 7 relations which you are supposed to have with the divine. What is that? अभी याद आ जाएगा, खिसता जा रहा है सेशन. Discipleship to God the teacher, sonship to God the father, tenderness of God the mother, clasp of the hand of the divine friend, blissful servitude to God our master, uh, um, our playful something with our boy and comrade and boy playfellow, blissful servitude, rapturous love of our divine paramour. These are the 7 beatitudes, he says. I'll share that aphorism. It's a very beautiful aphorism. But that can be done only when you realize that this same supreme self, ये जो मेरा खुद का higher self है, यही divine being है. And you realize that that supreme self is that divine being. Or again, I'm repeating the same words, but that is like the reason why that is reason why the soul is existing. Without, when one gets a touch of that, one gets a glimpse or a taste of that, then you're like, how the hell was I living without this? How the hell was I living without experiencing this divine being?
ये हार्मोनियसली कैसे वीव किया है
I'm
श्री
sorry
अरबिंदो
to
ने
use
ये अपोरिज्म
language
में
like
बहुत.
this, how the hell and all, but you feel कि कैसे मैं exist कर रहा था. इसके बिना तो मेरे जीवन का कोई अर्थ ही नहीं है.
और
But
ये जो
Anmol, I feel
7
so blessed that, we have somebody who's equally immersed in the love for the divine, who's being engaging with us. Because I'm telling you, I could be with Sadhguru, I could be Art of Living. There are 100 million people, but the essence of the reality of the truth is never elaborated as beautifully as Shri Aurobindo. I feel
That is the
just,
magic of Sri Aurobindo. That is the magic of
just
Sri
to get exposed to him means you've done
I
something
have
on the path.
had 2 hugs from Shishi Ravi Shankar. I have done all his courses except the teacher's training course. And I have had a hug from Jaggi Vasudevji. I went to his ashram. I have done his course. I can tell you that they don't even answer the basic question, why are you here? Why is the soul here? If the world is a prison and you have locked yourself into that prison, no disrespect to them. They are doing their great service to the world by preparing the masses for religion and spirituality and all that. But they don't even answer the basic question that why are you and I here in the first place? Purpose क्या है
ये
creation का?
श्री
And
अरबिंदो
जो डेप्थ ऑफ नॉलेज है भैया, वो तो आप भूल ही जाओ. मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, कहीं नहीं मिलेगा आपको.
कहीं नहीं
I am glad that you say this on your own. If I would say it on my own, then I might sound like Aurobindo fanatic. But that is the truth of the matter.
But I've also step by step been on this to realize that the clarity of what needs to be done and what the purpose, all of that is so beautifully, like when you talk about the 7 relationships with the divine, each step up has a significance of why that is a step up and better than, and you can understand even that by the 7 layers he's picked up. I mean, it's so divine just listening to what you have to say.
You just
Yogesh
read
bhai,
that aphorism.
Joy.
You just read that
Yogesh
aphorism
bhai,
and you'll go into ecstasy. It's such a beautiful aphorism.
योगेश भाई, जो श्री अरबिंदो ने जो जिस तरह से हार्मोनाइज किया है ना, ये सब पूरा ऐसा कहीं नहीं है. ये आई कैन, एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड यू कि मुझे तो आई फाउंड माय परमानेंस हियर. दैट्स इट. दैट्स आई कैन यूज दैट वर्ड. आई डोंट नो. In Sri Aurobindo,
there is no doubt. That is why Mother says that crystal clarity, which is there in Sri Aurobindo.
inscrutable.
She does not. She uses the word crystal clarity. She says, "I have not found it anywhere else." I might say here, Sri Aurobindo ने खुद का मंत्र दिया है. Pay attention. Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda. The man is equating himself to knowledge. What more do you want to hear? बचा क्या यार? उसने अपने आप को नॉलेज बोल दिया है, इससे बड़ा हिंट वो क्या देंगे? अगर आपको
सत्यम
नॉलेज चाहिए,
सत्यम
कंप्लीट
बोला,
प्योर
ज्ञानम
इंटेग्रल
बोला.
नॉलेज, इट इज देयर विद श्री अरविंदो. सत्यम ज्ञानम ज्योतिर अरविंद. You can attach an om in the beginning. Om Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Arvinda. You do japa of this mantra and knowledge will start
Yes.
coming to you from within.
Yes, it's true.
I am not saying this just like that.
No,
I'm
no,
saying this
even
with some responsibility.
Anmol bhai, even you do the japa of Gayatri mantra by Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo's Gayatri mantra, that also starts bringing a lot of dhi. The understanding widens. I have experienced that.
Yes.
But I think today's session, absolutely Anmol, it's been so enlightening and so beautiful. I mean, because anyway, it was this final part of this chapter, and look at it, the recording did not happen last week, but it's so beautiful.
Yes.
I mean, I'd
Yes,
love,
yes.
please share that.
I hope it has happened
again.
today. अभी तक चल रहा है ना recording का, हाँ, so it has happened today. I'm
Arey,
extremely sorry.
Anmol bhai,
Missing the recording last
can
time.
we not start synthesis of yoga also alongside?
We'll certainly think. Only, yeah, this is the aphorism. Yogesh bhai, I'm sharing it on the group.
Right.
With the link to the mother's, this thing, reference. ठीक है. Shall we close now?
Done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. My pleasure. Everybody's.
Heartfelt
Thank you also
gratitude.
for enlivening the session.
Thank you for everything, Anmol bhai, and
Nahin,
everyone also.
Please don't embarrass me.
Nahin.
Brothers, we are all children of the mother.
Yeah.
Okay, chalo, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, stop share and stop recording.